Welcome, dear friend, to a quiet corner of our channel, and thank you from the deepest reaches of our heart for choosing to spend your precious time here with us. We have woven for you a gentle story, crafted to serve as a warm, comforting hand, guiding you toward a peaceful night's slumber, helping you to drift off with ease. If, as you journey with us, you find a gentle joy in this quiet tale, please do right now lend your support by liking this story, subscribing to our channel, and perhaps sharing a gentle comment, for it helps us continue to share these moments of tranquility. Before we journey to the Basin of Stillness, a place where the air itself seems to sigh with contentment, we shall first share a moment of gentle breathing to settle your spirit. Now, let us invite true comfort to our being. Settle yourself, much like a traveler finding a perfect, soft patch of moss after a long day's walk. Feel your body sink gently into your mattress, or perhaps into the soft cushions of your chair, allowing every part of you to feel utterly supported and at ease. Adjust your blankets, pull them close as if they were a soft, warm hug from a dear friend, and let your pillow cradle your head, making a cozy nook just for you. This is your special time, a gentle evening pilgrimage where all the busy thoughts of the day may simply unfurl and drift away, inviting a quiet calm into your heart, as soft and pervasive as the scent of dream moss on the evening air. Let us share a soothing breath together, much like the slow, contented exhalation of the valley itself. Slowly, gently, draw the air in through your nose, imagining it flowing easily and naturally, like a soft silvery light filling every corner of your being. Then, release it just as gently through your mouth, a soft, almost imperceptible sigh of pure relief. With each slow, deliberate breath, feel your body softening, much like the tension leaving a tightly wound spool of thread, releasing any small knots you might be holding. Imagine the clean, cool fragrance of the dream moss, the faint sweetness of chamomile, and the grounding scent of ancient, peaceful stone, filling your senses and hushing the small, lingering noises you might have carried from your day. If, perchance, your thoughts begin to flutter like glowing spores in the soft light, that is quite all right, dear one. Simply observe them, allowing them to drift by like wisps of mist in a shallow dale, and then, with the gentlest kindness, guide your attention back to the steady rhythm of your breathing, or to the quiet comfort of my voice. There is nothing left for you to do now, save for listening and allowing the story to carry you into the deep, dreamless rest you so richly deserve. Feel the hum of the oracles begin, a low, deep vibration that resonates with the very song of patience, gently coaxing your own body into a profound state of relaxation. Now, let us begin our quiet journey, where the gentle hum of ancient stones and the soft scent of forgotten stories await to guide you into a serene and deeply restful sleep. Chapter 1. The Sighing Gate. It is a curious thing, you see, that the most important gateways are very often not made of wood or stone at all, but of a change in the air itself. Finian had been walking for what felt like a very long time, though he had not been counting the hours, on a path that had grown steadily softer and greener. And then he felt it, a gentle pressure in his ears, a profound hushing, as if the whole world had taken a slow, deep breath and decided not to let it out again just yet. This was the entrance to the Basin of Stillness, a threshold marked only by a feeling of deep and sudden peace. The path ahead was dappled in a light so soft it seemed to be woven from pearl dust and pale honey, a gentle luminescence that held none of the day's bright sharpness. His focus, which had been on the pleasant rhythm of his own walking, now turned to the air that filled his lungs. It carried a scent that was at once both new and deeply familiar, like a half-remembered lullaby. There was the clean, cool fragrance of rich, dark earth that had not been troubled by the sun for a very long time, a smell as grounding as a hand on the shoulder. Woven through it was a delicate sweetness, a hint of something like chamomile and wild clover, a scent that spoke of tiny, unassuming flowers blooming in sheltered, quiet places. With every breath, Finian felt the scent travel deeper, a gentle balm that seemed to rinse away the dust of his long journey from the very inside of him. The change was not just in the air, but under his very feet. The ground, which had been firm and trodden, now gave way to a deep, springy turf of the most lovely and gentle green, a carpet so plush it seemed to absorb the sound of his footsteps completely. With each step, the turf yielded slightly, a soft and welcoming embrace that made walking feel less like an effort and more like a slow, floating dance. He paused and pressed the toe of his worn leather boot into the ground, watching as the verdant cushion enveloped it, and then sprang back without a mark. It was as if the valley itself was glad of his presence and wished for him to tread softly upon its heart. He lifted his gaze to the canopy above, the source of the valley's remarkable light. The leaves of the ancient trees were broad and of a curious silvery green hue, and they overlapped in such a dense and intricate pattern that they acted as a natural ceiling, diffusing the sunlight into an even, shadowless glow. Here and there, a single, determined ray would find a tiny opening, not to pierce the gloom, but to drift down like a slow, golden feather, illuminating a patch of moss or a single nodding fern. The effect was wonderfully calming, as though he were walking at the bottom of a serene green sea protected from all the harshness of the world above. And then there was the quiet. It was a silence unlike any he had ever known, for it was not empty. It was full, a living presence that wrapped around him like the softest of blankets. The usual small sounds of the wider world, the distant call of a bird, the drone of an insect, the rustle of a scurrying creature, were simply not here. All that remained was a profound stillness, a silence that seemed to hum with a gentle and ancient energy. It was a quiet that did not demand to be filled, but invited one to simply be still within it, to listen to the soft, steady rhythm of one's own peaceful breathing. Finian found a smooth, low stone by the side of the path, its surface cool and pleasant to the touch, and sat down. He did not feel a need to press on or to seek out the heart of the valley just yet. It was enough, more than enough, to simply sit here at its edge, at this sighing gate. He could feel the tension he hadn't even noticed he was carrying in his shoulders and neck beginning to dissolve, melting away like sugar in warm tea. The weight of his pack seemed to lessen, and a feeling of immense, unburdened relief washed over him in a gentle, slow-moving wave. He leaned back against the trunk of a broad, smooth-barked tree, its texture solid and reassuring against his back. A languid zephyr, a mere breath of wind, stirred the silver-green leaves above, and it sounded less like a rustle and more like a soft collective sigh of contentment. Finian closed his eyes, not from weariness anymore, but from a sense of profound and simple gratitude. He had followed the faint whispers in old books and the quiet urgings of his own heart, and they had led him here, to a place that felt more like a home than anywhere he had ever been. The gentle pearlescent light still bathed his closed eyelids in a soft, soothing glow. The sweet, calming scent of the air filled his senses, and the deep, profound quiet held him, a safe and gentle cradle for his tired spirit. He did not know what lay deeper within the Basin of Stillness, but for the first time in a very long while, he felt no hurry to find out. Here, at the very beginning, was peace enough. And so he sat, and he breathed, and he allowed the great, gentle silence to welcome him home. Chapter 2. The Caretaker's Welcome. After a time that could have been minutes, or perhaps a full, soft hour, Finian felt a gentle stirring of curiosity. He rose from his stone, his movements feeling wonderfully slow and deliberate, and continued his way along the soundless path. The track, you see, was barely a track at all. More, a suggestion of passage where the turf was a fraction more compressed, and it led him on a meandering route, deeper into the basin's embrace. It was not long before a new scent joined the valley's gentle perfume, the faintest, most comforting wisp of wood smoke, a smell that spoke of hearth and home and simple warmth. The path rounded a thicket of ferns with fronds as wide as his outstretched arms, and there it was. Nestled into the soft green slope of a low hill was a small cottage, so perfectly a part of the landscape it seemed to have grown there. It was built of smooth gray river stones and dark sturdy timbers, with a roof of thick, living turf from which a few gentle blue-bellied flowers nodded. A single unwavering tendril of pale smoke rose from its stone chimney, a calm and steady beacon in the still air. It was the very picture of peaceful solitude, a place that felt as ancient and as settled as the hills themselves. As he drew nearer, the cottage's wooden door opened with a soft creak, and a figure emerged, wiping her hands on a simple linen apron. This was Maeva. She was a woman who seemed to be made of the same quiet contentment as the valley, with kind eyes the color of moss after rain and long silver-gray hair tied back in a simple knot. Her movements were unhurried, flowing with a natural grace that was a quiet joy to behold. She offered Finian a small, warm smile, a gesture of welcome that needed no words to convey its sincerity, and simply beckoned him closer with a gentle tilt of her head. The air inside the cottage was warm and carried the delicious grounding scent of baking bread. The space was simple, one large round room, with a gentle fire crackling in a stone hearth that took up much of one wall. A sturdy wooden table, its surface worn smooth by generations of use, stood in the center, flanked by two simple chairs. Maeva gestured for Finian to sit, and he sank gratefully onto one of the chairs, feeling the radiant warmth from the hearth seep into his clothes and chase away the last vestiges of any lingering chill. the fire made a soft crackling sound, a gentle and domestic counterpoint to the deep silence outside. Without a word, Maeva moved to the hearth, where a small kettle was steaming. She took down 2 earthenware mugs, their surfaces a pleasant, slightly rough texture under her fingertips, and spooned in a blend of dried pale yellow petals and herbs from a wooden canister. She poured the hot water over them, and the air immediately filled with the most wonderfully soothing aroma of chamomile and honey. She placed one of the mugs on the table before Finian, its comforting heat warming the dark wood. The tea inside was a beautiful pale gold, and tiny petals danced and swirled within its depths. Finian wrapped his hands around the warm mug, the simple heat a profound comfort. He took a small sip. The taste was gentle, sweet, and wonderfully calming, a liquid embodiment of the valley's own peaceful spirit. He and Maeva sat in a comfortable shared silence, a quiet companionship that felt more connecting than any flurry of words could have. There were no questions about his journey or his purpose. His presence was simply accepted, as naturally as the rising of the sun. The only sounds were the soft pop and crackle of the fire and the gentle clink of their mugs as they set them down upon the smooth table. Through the cottage's single, deep-set window, Finian could see the light in the valley beginning to soften further, shifting from pearlescent white to a warmer, rosy gold hue as the day gently prepared for evening. He watched a single, broad leaf detach from a branch and drift downwards in a slow, lazy spiral, taking an impossibly long time to reach the ground. There was no hurry here. There was no urgency. There was only the slow, peaceful rhythm of a world utterly at ease with itself, and the profound comfort of sharing that peace with a kind and quiet soul. When the loaf of oat bread was ready, Maeva took it from the small oven beside the hearth, wrapping it in a clean linen cloth. The scent was heavenly, a warm, nutty, wholesome aroma that filled the small cottage and made Finian's stomach rumble gently. She cut 2 thick, soft slices and placed them on a wooden plate between them, alongside a small pot of pale butter and a dish of honeycomb. They ate slowly, savoring the simple, perfect flavors, the hearty texture of the warm bread, the coolness of the butter, the sweet, floral taste of the honey. It was the most satisfying meal Finian had eaten in a very, very long time. Chapter 3. The First Hum. After their simple shared meal, as the light in the valley began to take on the soft, violet tones of twilight, Maeva rose from her chair. She did not speak, but merely gave a small, gentle nod towards the door, an unspoken invitation. Finian, feeling a sense of deep, restful contentment, followed her out into the cooling air. She led him away from her cottage, not along the path he had arrived on, but onto an even fainter trail that wound its way towards a dense cluster of ancient, broad-leafed ferns, whose fronds stood as tall as a man. The air here was cooler still, and smelled deeply of damp earth and verdant, growing things. Maeva paused at the edge of the fern grove, her calm presence a silent instruction. She gently parted 2 of the largest fronds, holding them aside for him. The movement was reverent, like drawing back a sacred curtain. Finian stepped through the opening she had made and found himself in a small hidden clearing. And there, in the center of the mossy ground, He saw it. It was an oracle. It was a magnificent, wondrous thing, a huge stone shaped like a great, dark egg, half buried in the earth. Its surface was impossibly smooth and seamless, a deep, matte black that seemed to drink in the fading light. He took a slow, hesitant step closer, his breath held in a state of gentle awe. The air around the stone felt different, charged with a quiet, unseen energy. He reached out a hand, his fingers tingling slightly in the strange air, and laid his palm flat against the oracle's surface. The stone was cool to the touch, a deep, ancient coolness, yet it was not inert. Beneath its placid exterior, he could feel a faint, rhythmic vibration, a pulse that was slow and deep and steady, like the heartbeat of the world itself. It was a feeling of profound, unshakable peace. And then he became aware of the sound, though it was the sound that was perhaps felt more than it was heard. It was a low, resonant hum, a single, sustained note that seemed to originate from the very core of the great stone. It was not loud, but it filled the clearing completely, vibrating through the soles of his feet, up through his bones, and settling deep within his chest. The hum was so steady, so peaceful, it seemed to coax his own heartbeat to slow down, to match its unhurried ancient rhythm. He felt the busy chatter of his own mind, the little thoughts and worries he hadn't even realized were there, simply fall silent, hushed by this profound, resonant song. As the last of the daylight vanished from the sky above the canopy, the oracle began to reveal another of its secrets. A soft light began to bloom from within the stone, a gentle internal glow. It was a beautiful muted violet color, and it waxed and waned in perfect time with the deep hum, growing slightly brighter with each slow pulse before softening again. The gentle pulsing light bathed the small clearing in a dreamlike ambiance, casting long, soft moving shadows from the ferns that ringed the glade. It was a hypnotic, deeply calming sight, a lullaby for the eyes. Finian sank to the ground, settling onto a patch of moss that was as soft as lamb's wool. He did not feel the need to understand the oracle, to question its origin or its purpose. It was enough, you see, to simply be in its presence, to be held by its gentle light and its soothing hum. He closed his eyes and focused only on the sensations, the cool, smooth stone still faintly sensed through the memory of his touch, the deep, resonant hum that vibrated through his entire being, the soft violet light that was a gentle warmth on his eyelids. He felt as though he were floating in a sea of pure tranquility. Each pulse of the oracle's hum seemed to wash through him, carrying away another layer of weariness, another small, forgotten tension. His breathing became slow and deep, perfectly in sync with the stone's ancient rhythm, without any conscious effort at all. It was the most natural thing in the world. He felt his body grow heavy, wonderfully heavy and relaxed, his limbs feeling as though they were melting into the soft, mossy earth beneath him. Maeva had, at some point, retreated as silently as she had arrived, leaving him to his quiet communion. He was alone, yet he did not feel alone at all. He felt deeply connected to this place, to this ancient, humming stone and its gentle pulsing heart. A profound sense of safety and well-being filled him, a feeling that here, in this small, secret clearing, Everything was perfectly, wonderfully right. And as he sat there, bathed in the violet glow, listening to the song of the stone, a gentle drowsiness, as soft and inviting as a downy pillow, began to settle over him. Chapter 4. The Garden of Dream Moss. In the slow, gentle days that followed, Finian found that the first oracle was but one of many. The Basin of Stillness was dotted with them, some large and solitary like the one he had first met, others gathered in small companionable clusters. Each had its own subtle character, its own unique tone in the valley's quiet chorus. One, nestled by a slow-moving trickle of a stream, hummed in a slightly deeper register and pulsed with a pale, warm, golden light. Another, small and almost perfectly spherical, offered a barely there vibration, a gentle purr that was wonderfully comforting to lean against. Finian's days fell into a simple, languid rhythm of exploring, his movements unhurried, his mind blissfully quiet. It was during one of these peaceful wanderings, in the tender light of a late afternoon, that he discovered another of the valley's gentle wonders. He had found a family of 3 oracles sitting together in a shallow hollow, and the ground all around them was carpeted not with the usual green moss, but with something else entirely. It was a thick, springy moss of the palest silver white, with a texture so soft and inviting it looked like a freshly fallen layer of snow. He knelt down, his hand hovering over it, and even from a distance he could feel a faint, pleasant coolness radiating from its surface. Curious, he gently brushed the pads of his fingers across the top of the strange, pale moss. The effect was immediate and quite magical. The moment his skin made contact, the moss responded by releasing a soft, shimmering cloud of tiny, luminous spores that floated upwards into the air. They did not fall quickly, but drifted with an enchanting slowness, like microscopic stars set free into the world. At the same time, a most beautiful fragrance was released, a delicate, clean scent that reminded him of lavender, cool night air, and the faintest hint of chamomile. He had, you see, found the dream moss. He lay down on the thick, inviting carpet of it, his head pillowed on his folded arms. The moss was even softer than he had imagined, a cool plush cushion that seemed to mold itself perfectly to his form. Above him, the 3 oracles hummed their gentle, overlapping harmonies, creating a complex and deeply soothing field of vibration that enveloped him completely. He lay there, feeling the gentle resonance from the stones below, and breathing in the calming, lavender-like scent of the moss, his gaze fixed on the lazy, upward drift of the glowing spores. As the sun sank lower, and the light within the basin softened towards dusk, the dream moss began to glow with its own internal luminescence. The entire bed of it took on a soft silvery radiance, pulsing gently, as if it were breathing in the last of the day's light. It cast a gentle, ethereal glow on the undersides of the great, dark oracles, making them seem as though they were floating just above the ground. The sight was one of such profound and gentle beauty that it brought a quiet smile to Finian's face. He felt a wonderful sense of weightlessness, as if he were floating on a calm, silvery sea. The combination of the oracle's hum, the moss's cool, soft texture, and its deeply relaxing scent was powerfully soporific. He felt his limbs grow heavy, not with tiredness, but with a deep, peaceful relaxation. His thoughts, which were already few and far between, seemed to dissolve entirely, leaving only a state of pure, serene awareness. He was aware of the soft light, the gentle sound, the soothing scent, and nothing more. It was a perfect, meditative stillness. He closed his eyes, and the world behind his eyelids was not dark, but filled with the gentle, lingering memory of the silver light and the drifting, sparkling spores. He imagined them carrying away any last, lingering vestiges of worldly concerns, each tiny spark a small worry floating up and disappearing into the vast, quiet sky. He took a slow, deep breath, and the fragrance of the dream moss seemed to fill his entire being, a gentle, herbal lullaby that quieted his spirit. He did not fight the drowsiness that crept over him. He welcomed it as a dear friend. Here in this safe and magical garden, sleep was not an escape, but a gentle, natural continuation of the peace he was already feeling. He drifted into a light, effortless doze, a sweet and gentle slumber filled with the softest of dreams. He was aware, in a distant, pleasant way, of the constant, reassuring hum of the oracles, a steadfast guardian watching over his rest. The valley, it seemed, was taking care of him, wrapping him in its layers of gentle magic and lulling him into a state of perfect, restorative peace. Chapter 5. The Stillness Within. The passage of time in the Basin of Stillness was a fluid, gentle thing, measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the slow shifting of light and the subtle changes in the valley's hum. Finian no longer thought in terms of days or weeks. He simply existed within a long, unbroken moment of profound peace. His journey was complete, not because he was leaving, but because he had arrived so fully that the line between himself and the valley had begun to soften and blur. The stillness he had sought outside himself, he now found blooming, warm and steady within his own heart. This evening he found himself drawn back to the very first oracle he had encountered, the great dark egg in its hidden glade of ferns. He sat on the soft moss, his back resting comfortably against the cool, impossibly smooth stone. The sun had long since slipped below the gentle peaks of the surrounding hills, and the valley was bathed in the deep, velvety blue of twilight. He did not need to see the oracle pulse. He could feel its slow, steady rhythm against his back, a familiar and profoundly reassuring beat that felt as natural and as vital as his own. He sat with his eyes open, observing the world around him with a quiet, appreciative gaze. He watched as the first beds of dream moss in the distance began to awaken, their soft, silvery glow a gentle answer to the fading light of the sky. A single wide petal from an unseen night blooming flower drifted down and landed softly on his knee, its texture as smooth as silk. He did not brush it away, but simply observed its perfect, simple beauty. His mind was a calm, clear pool, reflecting the gentle wonder of the world around it without a single ripple of distracting thought. The hum of the oracle was no longer just a sound he heard, or a vibration he felt. It seemed to be the very air he was breathing, the very blood that flowed in his veins. He had become so attuned to the valley's gentle song that it now felt like his own. He placed a hand over his heart, and the slow, steady beat he felt there was in perfect, unforced harmony with the ancient pulse of the stone behind him. A feeling of deep, quiet joy rose within him, a simple and profound gratitude for this place and the gentle magic it so freely offered. Later, he made his way back to Mavis Cottage, his footsteps sure and soundless on the dark path. The windows of the little home glowed with a warm, welcoming light, a soft orange that spoke of hearth fire and contentment. Mava was sitting at her table, mending a cloth by the light of a single beeswax candle, its flame barely flickering in the still air. She looked up as he entered and gave him that same simple, knowing smile. There was no need for words. She could see the deep peace that radiated from him, the quiet light that shone in his eyes. He went to his simple cot in the small guest room, a space that had become a true sanctuary. Mava had left the window open, as she always did, and the cool night air drifted in, carrying the faint, calming scent of the distant dream moss and the omnipresent, soothing hum of the oracles. He lay down, not with the weary sigh of a long day's end, but with the soft, contented exhalation of a soul that has found its place of rest. The blankets felt wonderfully soft, the simple pillow a perfect cradle for his head. He lay there for a moment, listening. The hum of the valley was a gentle, constant lullaby. He felt his body feel wonderfully heavy and warm, sinking into the mattress, every muscle completely at ease, every thought dissolved into a serene quietude. There was nothing to do, nothing to solve, nothing to prepare for. There was only this perfect, peaceful moment, this safe harbor of stillness. He felt a profound sense of being held, of being cared for by the ancient, gentle spirit of the valley itself. And as he closed his eyes, he did not fall into sleep, so much as he allowed himself to merge with it, to become a part of the deep, restorative peace that was the valley's very essence. The line between waking and dreaming simply melted away, and he drifted off instantly, effortlessly, into the deepest, most tranquil and dreamless slumber he had ever known. And here, in the heart of the Basin of Stillness, held by the humming of the stones and the scent of the moss, we shall leave him to his perfect rest and invite that same profound peace to settle over you now.